I serve up meat for the mature believer. So if you're a returning subscriber, enjoy this series, especially the one I'm doing on metals, Keys to the Kingdom. And if you're new, subscribe. Those are 250 videos that have a lot of meat and oil for your lamp for the last days. Shalom. We have to look everything after its fruit. Yeshua said, you'll know a tree, and a tree is just a person, and it's one of its, by their fruit. And so if you need to examine the knowledge stream that's coming from someone to find out if it's truly coming from a holy root, you have to pair up the knowledge stream with the actions. This is a whole biblical principle. Because to the pure, all things are pure, meaning even their actions will be pure. When you get into occultists, and then you get into magic arts practitioners, and you get into Luciferians, you will find their practices, their life are so dark and immoral and ugly. It pales. You know, that's why it says it's almost don't even speak about the things that they do in darkness. But we have to, at some point, in terms of getting knowledge, because my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. All right, so these occultists have really repackaged a science to us that really does carry forward for them and their intents and purposes much of the understanding that the ancients had. All right, because many of the origins of the elements, so what they did in the West was they took the periodic table, the chemical table, all of the known elements, the building blocks, right, we're down this one, and they repackaged them, but at the same time kept many of their mythological connections because they are there. So I'm going to try to do this, give you really quick what I mean. So let's just take, now there is a correspondence, this is the thing, this was how the lower seven separate work and how they're lumped together, and they give us understandings through planetary, okay, let's call, I know people don't like the word planet, it's not a biblical word, but for all luminaries, they're called moving bodies, all right? The heavens, all right? So in the heavens, you have a moon and a sun, and you have all sorts of stars and luminous entities, beings, planets, whatever, all right? That makes up a huge, so this is how the ancients, they coded into a planet or into a luminary certain properties, all right? Now this is a fact, it's not, it's, all right. Also then, because that property, that power, that luminary is emitting in its energy transfer all the way down to the subatomic particle, all right? That's what's going on. There is a complete electromagnetic dance that is always going on between the luminaries and the subatomic, the organic, the subatomic elements that they're interfacing. Now, that truth is in science today. It is in witchcraft today. It is in Eastern religion today. It is in our writings, our biblical writings. This is, and it's totally spelled out in Zoharic understanding. Okay, so that reality is true. The point is, you just have to figure out which language, you know, where you are, what the language is being used, and how to figure out, okay, what are they talking about? This is what's taken. But if you take, let's just take number 92, 93, and 94 in the periodic table, which happens to be 92U is uranium for the planet Uranus. Now, if you go and look this up and look at the word origins, they're not, at that point, it's not hidden. It is taken from the planet, the luminary. They've always known these things are on. They didn't just discover these planets, all right? Because if you look at the separate thing, it's always been known that out are 3 planets, all right? But 94 is Pu, which is plutonium, which comes from, is equated to the planet Pluto, the luminary Pluto, all right? And it's probably bigger than that. I mean, what you have to understand is these are just classificational words giving an understanding of an emanative flux flow energy that is coming from this mazal, these heavens that are above us, all right, that do move, and I believe here they were stationary. I see how the world of physicality is so slowed down. Okay, so you have Neptune, you have plutonium, Pluto, you have Uranus, 92, uranium, the planet Uranus. Okay, so that's not an accident. You have titanium. They'll tell you titanium is made from the Titans. It the first son of Gaia. Gaia is Earth. Titanium is one of the first elementals made after this union. Because even we'll get to the planet on explaining what is going on in the mythological stories. This is true. It's not like there were a bunch of these quote-unquote gods running around and big swords up there. These words are being used to explain how these forces and these energies interact with each other and interact with the subatomic elemental world that's way down here, all right? You have iron, which, and I have a little quote in this I have to get to. When I get into, I'm going to flush out. I'm going to do this, try to do this in 3 little sections. I'm going to flush out and go back to the metals and flush this out. Iron, which means a strong, which is a strong metal, and iron it's one of the most unbreakable. That's why it's, unbreakable elements out there, ores, minerals. They're all minerals, ore, and they're all of the word elementals, which are true. And let me say this at this point, I have to say this. All of this stuff, whether at the subatomic level, or you're at the Sephiritic level, or you're at the Mazal level, the Mazra level, everything's alive. Everything's an intelligence. Everything has form and essence and form. This is so, and they're all alive. This is something we have to come, that the Western scientific mind doesn't want you to think, doesn't want you to really think like that. But the true secret, we have to understand that this is the truth. So you have selenium, which is the moon goddess. Okay, selenium, which is after the goddess Selene, who is considered to be a Titan daughter. All right. And what that means, and that's in terms of progenitive, in a progenitive sense. So this is when you understand your father, you had the progenitor, and then you had their children. This is not like, like we have to separate our personal, way down here, low level understanding of children and marriage into take that understanding. How would two intelligences that don't have human body parts, how would they progenerate? All right, so it's a concept of multiplication, of progeneration, and of multiplication. All right, and generation. I think that's the one. All right, how about helium? From the sun god Helios. All right, and hydrogen, which is hydrogen is from the Greek word, the Greek god hydro, which is, in its word, it means I beget water and genes. Hydro and genesis, geno and genes, genesis all mean the genes. So you actually have the water, the flow, the flux, and the paired up with the genes. Now let me do this quick. So you have here, but I don't know how to do this, because there is a holy application. There is knowledge and understanding that our Father wants us to have of how the cosmos is structured, so that we can have a relationship with Him. And truly, on a pure level, it's astounding. I mean, I can understand, like, one of the most mystical experiences I just had recently was watching the last blood moon we had. When I went outside, I was looking up at the moon, and it was so, it was so mystical to me. It was so beautiful. It just the beauty of it. I was awestruck. But it was so intimate. I felt like, seriously, I was peering at, and if you understand Zohar, two lovers thing. This is, I mean, I thought I was really peering at something almost that was so pure and holy, and oh my gosh, it was so mystical. So I don't know if you could, for those who are more understanding what I'm trying to say there without saying it. Okay, but we're going to move on. Okay, so wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing. We are told in our text that wisdom is the first order of business. It's the highest understanding. Get wisdom and get understanding. Okay? Now, if you were not to take that, you can just apply that totally intellectually, which most people do, which is so, in my opinion, now low level. Let's kind of get a bigger picture here. And in the Hebrew, okay, so in the periodic table, which they're repackaging to us, something that the Hebrews have always known, which I believe. Okay, so if you take the 10 separate and pair them with the 22 letters, you get 32. 32, everybody knows that 32 mystical paths of Yahweh. This is not an accident. Now, so the 10 separate are the basic utterances. And I can't even give you the whole Zoharic understanding of this, but think of it this way. When Yah spoke, if you read Genesis 1 very close, you realize He spoke 10 times. He didn't just stop and live His life. There are 10 utterances. And so utterance is the voice. That's like the original, putting out there the original energy or emanate of what's going on. And then it is paired up with the letters, because the letters are equated to the building block, the DNA of what's eventually going to be the end result of that speaking. So there's this whole balance, there's this whole correlation between the building blocks and the utterance or the power that went out from Elohim. But if they pair it up even more, they do actually give you an understanding. Okay, so they will tell you that wisdom, right? So hydrogen is the number one, is the first element in the whole periodic table. Well, that's not an accident, because, which I said is water plus genes, which I told you, water, if you read in your text too, that He's separating the waters, the upper waters from the lower waters. There is, and it gets so deep and all that, but there is, he's moving things around, he's making places for everything, He's separating, and there are 10 firmaments, there's so much info I can't even be, but what we have to understand is there is a holy understanding of this, all right? Now, wisdom, it says, okay, there's a whole, the Aleph, but the Aleph is silent, all right? So you can't, see or hear it. Well, you can see it, but the Aleph, in the context, we can see sunshine, okay, per se, if we're talking wisdom, but we don't, Aleph, it's still silent, all right? But when you get into Bet, Aleph, Bet, because there is the whole story that He did create in the beginning was the Word, and the Word, all right, how does this go? Made the heavens and the earth, all right, in the beginning. Beginning, if you look at this in the Hebrew, it is the word Bereshit. Beginning, Bereshit, and begins with a B, Bereshit, but the B is capitalized. So it's something you wouldn't even see in the English, but in the Hebrew, you understand, when they change words around, make them smaller, make them larger, they space them, they put extra letters. This is all done purposely to communicate information, but the Bet is capital. You take the letters of Bereshit, which can be permeated in innumerable ways, all right? But the point is, that is ultimately baked, is, get wisdom, get understanding. Everyone will tell you that that understanding is the first level that we can begin to really wrap our minds around. All right. Wisdom is the original, let there be light, is the light, which is the word, Yeshua says, I am the light of the world. There is okay, so, there are no atoms. Let's just say that's one lie of science, and everything's, there's an atom. No, it's particles of light, all right, which is in everything. Light is the foundation of everything. This wisdom. But anyways, wisdom, or its elemental parallel, which is hydrogen, is the source of all other matter in the universe. It corresponds to the accepted contemporary theory of nucleosynthesis, or elemental formation. And in my last, I hope you're up to speed with all these, when I talk about even in the cell, it talks about the 4 elementals. This all tracks, even in the most basic building block and everything that's in it. If all this information really does stay intact, all right? And it is equated in the periodic table, hydrogen, which corresponds to the letter Aleph, which is the name of Elohim. Now, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, taught that all other 21 letters of the alphabet originate from the letter Aleph. And this is another parallel to the theory of nucleosynthesis. So what I want you to see is, and the letter Bet, all right? Bet is equated with the planet Saturn in the Sephirithic table, the luminary, whatever is emanating from that luminary, equated with the 7th month in winter, which is really interesting because that's exactly where we are. This is being reported under this whole, it's the 4th season, it's winter. And so they have, in our text, if we can get there, Zohar says it is so locked down, really. It is designated in so many ways, but even if I can read this color, this is how, so you have a Sephirithic emanation, origination, you have, it's equated, it goes through a luminary, it goes through that, it comes down to us to all of these different levels, spiritual, astral, into the physical, and it comes, there's a relationship, you'll see this between the energy and its particles, so to speak, what the DNA is carrying down, so to speak, even to the colors, because they do also equate these with colors. So when the Sephiroth emanation or power or energy, where it comes into the world, this is why light looks white, but if we know now, you can break it up and see when it comes into the world of physicality, at a certain point as it comes down and it enters our world, it turns into a pigment. And then these pigments mix with each other, and that's how shades develop. And you just look at the creation, it is just, from the white light to this incredible array of color, and everything in the world then has insane amounts of color. And then you can even get into, when you study color, it has a properties, it has a DNA, it has a function. It's not just decorative. And you study plants and animals, and they're beginning to understand how color is so integral to what's going on in that entity. So this stuff, this is knowledge that is in our text, and there is a level of it that is very, very holy, and we can get back there, I believe. But what I want to say, science is not, because a lot of these people, that the elitists, the occultists, they're not all Luciferians, and they are keeping purposely a certain correspondence to the information in different presentations of it, be it science. So the periodic table, it really is promoting a lot of the same information. They have just totally, like I said, a secular taken Yahweh Elohim out of the equation. And that is what Paul says, woe unto them who knew about God. They know, and they're going to come under insane judgment for shutting people out, so to speak, of the kingdom of Elohim. So on that note, I'm going to end now, and we'll come back, and I think I'll get into now how it's being repackaged to us through the Eastern religions. We'll do science a little bit, and then I'll even get more specific. Shalom.